Hi Mike. You're early today. I have something important to discuss with you. It's about the tuition fees. Have you paid them all? No. I haven't paid them yet, but I have prepared the money. I had been saving up diligently until now, and had enough savings to pay off our daughter's tuition fees in one go. However, I wondered why he was asking me about this all of a sudden. There's no problem with the tuition fees, but why are you asking all of a sudden? If the tuition fees are already covered by savings, then there's no reason for me to stay with you. Please, let's get a divorce. What? Divorce. What do you mean? The moment I heard the word a divorce, my mind went blank. Maybe I misheard. That's what I wanted to believe, what I wanted to tell myself. But your role was to do the household chores and earn the tuition fees for our daughter. Just those two things. Doing household chores wasn't really a priority. And if you say you've saved up enough for the private university tuition fees, then I have no use for you anymore. You're kidding. This is a joke, right? To think you've been looking at me this way all along. Impossible. It's possible. I married you because I was determined to raise a child that wasn't mine as if she were my own. I've made good use of you. Hearing these words from my husband, Mike, the moment I understood his true intentions, I felt so angry I thought my veins would burst. When I married him, I had intended to lovingly raise his daughter from another relationship. But he had only been using my feelings for his convenience. To betray me like this. Have you been using me all this time? Was there never any love for me? You don't need to ask again. What I said earlier makes it clear, doesn't it? You were just a convenient woman for me. Even if you were a designer earning only $7.50 an hour, it was enough to cover our daughter's college expenses. How could you? Like, it's gross, can you not fight in front of me? And I've always thought this, but Dad is right. You earn less than a college student like me, clinging to that freelance designer job. If you worked as a full-time employee at a proper company, I'd have more money to spend freely. You've deprived me of my right to enjoy my college years, so leave all your money and get out. Not just from my husband, but to hear such harsh words from the girl I had cherished like my own daughter. My brain was beyond anger, filled with disgust, and I felt utterly drained. But my decision was made. If being insulted and deemed unnecessary by these two was how it was, then leaving them was the only option. Not immediately, of course. Cutting ties with them wouldn't be enough. The suffering I had endured, I wanted them to experience it too. With that thought, I immediately took action. My name is Catherine, and I am currently the president of an apparel company. Originally working as a designer, I was responsible for designing clothing at an apparel design company. It was my experience there that allowed me to manage my business profitably after going independent, doing most of the design work myself, and getting clothes made cheaply by an acquaintance's factories. You know what? I think this design will be popular this summer. Lately, there's been a trend for more modest designs, but it's still hot in the summer, right? So I tried to balance it out with this design. I think it's really good. But maybe adding a touch of navy, since it's been trending recently, could make it even more popular. Indeed, that's true. As the company's leader, I hold most of the authority. But I never dismiss my employees' opinions or insist on my own way. If I wanted to work by myself, I could have continued as a freelancer. However, we are now working as an organization, as a company. Despite our different positions, I know that the employees I've chosen are all working to create good products. So I make sure to listen to their various opinions. As a result, there are hardly any complaints within the company. And I believe everyone can work freely and happily. Moreover, since our sales have been growing steadily, the company has continued to expand. I'm thinking of expanding the design department, and I want you to take charge of it. Really? Yes, really. I've seen your hard work all this time. And regardless of whether or not you take over the design department, I'll increase your salary. Of course, as the company's revenue increases, so does my share. Well, I do receive a salary from the company, so I can increase it. But before even thinking about taxes, I'm not working just to make a profit for myself. Starting an apparel company was my goal, and I enjoy the work itself. Having worked as a designer before, I am more aware than anyone that the company runs because of its employees. Even though I just got a raise recently. Are you sure it's okay? I might be presumptuous in asking this. I've decided to always give back to the employees when the revenue increases. It would be ridiculous if I kept it all to myself, wouldn't it? I might say this about myself, but I think a lot of employees really look up to me. This is certainly because I return a significant portion of the revenue to the employees and invest in the company's growth. But above all, it's because I still work on the ground myself. By constantly thinking about what makes a great leader, I've managed to run a company that naturally attracts employees to follow its vision, which has led to increased sales and growth for the company. My dream is to grow the company even more and deliver our apparel products to people all over the country. For that, I need to keep working hard. With this in mind, I have been striving at the forefront for years. Before I knew it, 10 years had passed, and I turned 36. Recently, I found someone who could be my right-hand man in the company. And more importantly, I started to seriously think about marriage. I've been dating someone for about a year now, who has a 3-year-old child. Although we're serious, the barrier to marriage was bigger than for most people. About our marriage. What should we do? I'm serious about being with you, and I've always wanted to marry you. And your child. I want to raise them as my own. I'm prepared for that. Until now, we hadn't specifically discussed marriage. But thinking that staying silent would lead to no progress, I brought up the topic to him. He was worried about his child, but I was serious about wanting to be a mother to his child. My feelings towards marriage were that strong. Perhaps sensing my feelings, he thought for a moment, then smiled, squeezing my hand in affirmation. I can see your determination. Thank you. From now on, let's do our best together. I had thought, maybe he wouldn't want to marry me because of his child. The joy I felt when he agreed to marry me was genuine. Now, I would have a family of my own. Until now, my work and growing my company were my life. But from now on, I need to work hard to nurture love as a family. For his child, no, for our child, I told myself. After that, we got married, and our life as a family of 3 began. Although I am a company president, I don't earn as much as presidents of companies of similar size. Maybe there was no need to worry. I didn't want to be seen for my money, so I kept quiet about running a company. I had planned to tell him after we got married, but couldn't find the right timing, and a month had passed. I had told him I was freelancing as a designer, so household chores were left to me. Catherine, I appreciate you cooking, but aren't you cutting corners a bit? I'm tired from working, so I need you to make more nutritious dishes. Today, for example, there are only 3 side dishes. That's too few, no matter how you look at it. Sorry. I thought soup and 3 dishes would be enough. You need to make at least 5. It's not just about my nutrition. If there are only 3, I'll get bored halfway through. It had only been a month since we got married, and it was my first marriage. Though I hadn't felt any significant irritation or anger yet. Looking back, I think this was when I started to see his true nature. I'm not a full-time homemaker, but I'm not just a housewife either. I had told my husband that I was freelancing as a designer, so I had to take care of the household chores. Considering I also have to take care of our 3-year-old daughter, doesn't he think it's unreasonable to demand 5 different dishes for dinner? Well, since he doesn't cook himself, he probably doesn't understand the struggle. After that day, I ended up spending more than double the time on cooking dinner. And with looking after the child and household chores, I barely had time for work. I was able to leave everything to the vice president of the company, and through regular meetings with the vice president and other executives, the business wasn't deteriorating, but since I wasn't as involved in the day-to-day operations, the growth wasn't as robust as it could have been. Despite thinking I need to improve our current lifestyle somehow, my husband often came home late due to overtime, making it difficult to change our situation. Time flew by, and our daughter started elementary school. How about we go to a resort as a family to celebrate her entering elementary school? It'll be harder to take time off once she starts, and it'll become more difficult to spend time as a family. Do we really need to do something like that? And even if we go, it's coming out of my salary anyway, so don't act so high and mighty. It's a bit cheeky to suggest using someone else's money for living. If you were paying, it'd be another story. No. That's not what I meant. I just thought it would be nice to create some memories together. While you say that, you just want to go on a resort trip yourself, don't you? I don't have that much money to spend on you. It's not like I wanted to go on a resort trip for myself and suggested it for everyone. I just thought it might be nice to celebrate something. We've never gone to a resort as a family since we got married, so I genuinely wanted to create some memories when we had the chance. Despite living together with my daughter for several years, I felt there was a gap between us. Of course, we're not related by blood, and she probably doesn't see me as her real parent. That was also part of why I suggested it. However, for some reason, my husband saw me as an adversary, only making belittling comments. This behavior started a few months after we got married, and I hadn't told him about running the company since then. I felt like our family bond was deteriorating. Can we really continue like this for decades to come? I'm almost 40, and even though money is not an issue, I can't live alone. I wanted to maintain a good relationship with my husband and get along with my daughter. But while harboring these frustrations, I didn't want to cause trouble in the family. So I kept these feelings buried deep inside. Both of you, have a good day today. Years passed, one after another, and before I knew it, my daughter was in college. The condition was that my husband would pay for living expenses, while I paid for the tuition from the money I had earned. She was able to attend private middle and high schools because I paid for them, and she went on to a private university. I consider her my child and have no regrets about spending money on her. But since she hit puberty, she started treating me similarly to my husband, and I no longer felt the warmth of a family, but as a parent. I felt it was my responsibility to take care of her until she graduated from college. Hi Mike. You're home early today. I have something important to discuss with you. It's about the tuition fees. Have you paid them all? No. I haven't paid them yet, but I have prepared the money. I had been diligently saving money all this time and hadn't really spent it. So I had enough savings to pay off my daughter's tuition fees in one go. However, I wondered why he was asking me about this all of a sudden. As the father of my daughter, he must be worried about the expenses for university. But we've never been late on tuition payments for her private middle and high schools. I also paid for her cram school and camp fees for university entrance exams. We never had any financial issues. So it puzzled me why my husband was questioning me about tuition payments now. There's no problem with the tuition fees, but why are you asking all of a sudden? If the tuition fees are already covered by savings, then there's no more reason for me to stay with you. Please, let's get a divorce. What? Divorce. What do you mean? The moment I heard the word a divorce, my mind went blank. Maybe I misheard. That's what I wanted to believe. After nearly 20 years of marriage, why is he bringing up divorce now? It must be some mistake. I've tried to be a good partner for my husband and a good mother for my daughter, doing everything I could for the family. Although I couldn't feel the warmth of a family, deep down I believed there was a bond between us. But your role was to do the household chores and earn tuition fees for our daughter. Just those two things. Doing household chores wasn't really a priority. And if you've already saved up enough for the private university tuition fees, then I have no further use for you. You're kidding. This has to be a joke, right? To think you've always seen me this way. Impossible. It's possible. I married you because I was determined to raise a child that wasn't mine as if she were my own. I've made good use of you. Hearing these words from my husband, the moment I understood his true intentions, I felt so angry I thought my veins would burst. Somehow, I clenched my fists and gritted my teeth to suppress my anger. But deep down, I truly believed he lacked any human empathy. The thought that he had been using me from the very beginning was unbearable. What did he take me for? I had always strived for our family, only to realize I had been used all along. A mix of regret for the nearly 20 wasted years, sadness, hatred, and anger swirled in my mind, leaving me in turmoil. But my resentment towards my husband was sharp and pointed, like a finely honed blade directed at him. To betray me like this is too much. So you've been using me all along? There was never any love for me. You don't need to ask again. What I said earlier should make it clear. You were just a convenient woman for me. I've had plenty of other women to entertain myself with. And you were mistaken if you thought you were the only one. Marrying you was primarily for the financial benefits. Even if you were just a lousy designer earning an hourly wage, it was enough to cover our daughter's educational expenses. How could you? It's gross. Can you not fight in front of me? And I've always thought Dad was right. You earn less than a college student like me, clinging to that freelance designer job. If you worked as a full-time employee at a proper company, I'd have more money to spend freely. You've deprived me of my right to enjoy my college years, so leave all your money and get out. Not just from my husband, but to hear such harsh words from the girl I had cherished like my own daughter. My brain was beyond anger, filled with disgust, and I felt utterly drained. But my decision was made. If being insulted and deemed unnecessary by these two was how it was, then leaving them was the only option. Not immediately, of course. Simply cutting ties with them wouldn't be enough. The suffering I had endured, I wanted them to experience it too. With that thought, I immediately took action. 3 months later, on a day when my husband and his daughter went to work and university as usual, leaving me alone at home. Normally, I would do housework, then some work, and return to housework. But that day, I had a lot to do. First, the moving process. Over these 3 months, I had been searching for a new apartment. It took some time to move because of that. But I finally found a nice place that was more than enough for one person. My husband and his daughter would probably return at night. The move was supposed to finish by 3 p.m. But I hurried to pack up everything before the movers arrived. Please take care of everything. What if my daughter or husband came back in the evening? If the move was delayed? I was anxious, but the moving company lived up to its reputation. What was supposed to finish by 3 p.m. was done by 1:30 p.m., and by 2 p.m. all the belongings were moved to the new place. They hurried because I had asked them to finish as quickly as possible. I thanked them with a $100 note, telling them to enjoy a nice meal. And they left expressing their gratitude. From there, I just had to wait for a call from them. I left a divorce notice and a simple note at the house. As I was unpacking leisurely, I received a call from my husband around 8 p.m. He must have noticed my belongings were gone and found the divorce notice and the note. I was anxious he might be furious. But even if he lashed out, the fact that I moved out and decided to cut ties wouldn't change. Nor did I intend to change it. Hey. What the hell is this? Don't do things on your own. Come back home now. As expected, he was angry. I sighed slightly at the thought. It was ironic. He was the one who wanted a divorce and told me to leave, yet when I actually did, he reacted with outrage. He might not realize his own contradictions. Or even if he does, he might mistakenly believe everything he says is right. Either way, I think I should have divorced such a ridiculous person much earlier. I promised myself when we got married that I would responsibly raise our daughter. Which is why the option of divorce never crossed my mind, even as our family ties broke down. But now, I don't care anymore. I plan to live my life, and I have no intention of involving myself with those two anymore. I've written all my thoughts in a letter, so he should understand. Maybe that's why he's freaking out. But let's end everything with this call. With that mindset, I responded. What are you talking about? Didn't I write that I'm cutting ties? Plus, it was you who said to leave. So I did, and I don't think I deserve to be yelled at for it. If anything, since I did as you said, you should be thanking me. No. What about the university tuition fees? You're going to take care of the rest, right? How much do you have? It's a private university, so it's quite expensive. Maybe around $40,000 left? There's no way I can pay that amount. I don't mind if you divorce and leave, but leave that money behind. No, if I have that kind of spare money, I'd rather take 2,500 employees out for a meal as a team-building exercise. As the president of a company, I can't afford to waste money foolishly like that. After I said that, my husband fell silent for a few seconds. He was probably shocked by the high amount of the remaining tuition fees, but also surprised to learn that I was the president of a company with 2,500 employees. Of course, I had intended to talk about my company management soon after getting married. I never planned to keep it a secret forever. If the family needed money, I even thought about raising my own salary a bit. There was a time when I thought that way. However, the way my husband treated me was not as a family member. If I'm not treated as a family, why should I sacrifice so much? I began to feel this way. And the way my husband started using me like a housekeeper was evident within the first 6 months of our marriage. That's why I thought he would immediately ask for money once I revealed I was managing a company. That's why I've kept the fact that I've been the president of a company for nearly 20 years a secret from my husband. He never tried to know more about me, so he never found out. I don't know about the tuition fees anymore. And I've decided to focus only on my company from now on. So please don't contact me anymore, okay? Wait a minute. That's absurd. Why have you been silent about such an important thing for 20 years? We're married. I have a right to know everything, don't I? There's no need to tell you everything, right? Besides, it was you who wanted a divorce, so I don't care anymore. I don't think what I'm saying is wrong. I understand the argument, why have I kept such a big secret all this time? But then, why did he treat me not as a wife, but as a housekeeper all this time? Whatever you say, my decision to divorce won't change. Wait. Then you'll have to pay me a huge amount for the property division, right? Are you okay with that? A huge amount. What are you talking about? If you're running such a large company, you must be earning a tremendous amount of salary, right? Then, I have a right to half of it. I never thought he would demand a share of the property after using me like a housekeeper for all those years. Well, he brought up divorce after making sure I had enough savings to pay for college. He didn't demand a share back then. But now I truly understand that there wasn't a shred of affection for me. To think I lived with such a person for 20 years, spending my time. It really feels like a waste of time. But probably, it's over now. He might be happy thinking he can get a huge amount of money from me. Not only can he divorce someone he doesn't love, but he might also think he can enjoy a lavish lifestyle with that money. But the world isn't that sweet. So, how much do you have? My savings? I only have about $3,000 left. Most of the money I had saved up went to moving expenses. What? The disbelief in his voice, a mixture of shock and bewilderment, is something I'll never forget. It was as if he wanted to say it was a mistake, that I meant $300,000, not $3,000. However, no matter how much the company grew, I never increased my share. I always continued to give back to the many employees and invested in growing the company. I never had a desire to become wealthy or a craving to spend money. That's why, even after 20 years, I hardly have any money. He had set his expectations high without knowing this, only to disappoint himself. It's almost laughable. That's all the savings I have, but I'll be taking half of whatever savings you have. Since you initiated the property division during divorce, it's only fair that you don't get to say you won't pay your share. After I said that, my husband fell silent, but I couldn't let him off the hook. It's not that I wanted the money. The amount I could get from him as a division of property would be negligible. But for my money-grubbing husband, even a small amount would seem significant. The idea of handing over any money to me, whom he had exploited for so long, must be unbearable. I didn't want the money, I wanted revenge. I think you know, but I run a company. And I have many lawyers who will stand by me. I'm prepared to go to court for a divorce, and don't underestimate me. Wait. Can't we talk? Maybe I was a bit harsh on you. But I do see you as my valuable wife. Can't we continue to try as a family? Ha! No way. Don't start saying convenient things now. Convenient things. Even if you tear up the divorce papers and don't submit them, I'll fight tooth and nail with a lawyer. You should consult your situation with a lawyer too. But you'll find you have almost no chance of winning. You'll end up spending a lot on legal fees, lose a lot of money, and won't be able to afford our daughter's college anymore. That's up to you. Goodbye. I hung up after that. He called several times after, but I ignored them all. Around 10 p.m., my daughter also tried to contact me, but I didn't answer her calls either. Later, since the divorce papers weren't submitted, I consulted with the company's lawyer to contact my husband. He was apparently quite panicked when he really received a call from a lawyer. Desperately, he lamented that if we went through with the divorce and division of property, he wouldn't be able to afford our daughter's college, but that's no concern of mine. I've always done my best for the family, now they can fend for themselves. Despite his attempts to persuade me, our divorce was finalized. My ex-husband ended up having to pay a significant amount in the division of property. Even if he had been paying living expenses, 20 years should have allowed for some savings. Whether he had saved for his retirement, I don't know, but now his life plans are ruined. Well, it's no concern of mine, and as a form of revenge, I feel quite relieved. A few weeks later, the results from a private investigator I had hired came back. My ex-husband's words about having plenty of women always nagged at me. So I had him investigated. It turned out he had been cheating with a younger colleague from his company. I reported this to his company and filed for compensation for my forced houseworks. As a result, he had to take out a large loan to make the payments and lost his job at the company. With no income from my ex-husband, my daughter had no choice but to drop out of college. Some might pity her, given the circumstances, but she, too, had looked down on me and exploited me just like her father. What you do comes back to you in some form. By divorcing me, both their lives plummeted. But that's just the result of their own actions coming back to haunt them. What goes around comes around isn't just a saying, it's true. Live honestly, and the results will eventually return to you. If you live a life looking down on and exploiting others, eventually you'll be abandoned by everyone, with no one left to help. I likely won't remarry and will continue living as a business owner. This reflection highlights a profound understanding of the intrinsic value of humility and gratitude, regardless of one's success or status. Maintaining a grounded approach and appreciating the contributions of every employee not only fosters a positive work environment, but also enriches one's personal growth and relationships. It's a reminder that true wealth in life comes not from monetary gains, but from the quality of our interactions and the respect we show to those around us. Keeping the initial spirit of gratitude towards employees signifies a leadership style that values people over profits, which can lead to a more fulfilled and meaningful life. It's a testament to the belief that how we treat others, especially those who contribute to our success, defines our character and impacts our overall happiness and satisfaction in life.